From Delhi, we've traveled to Bengaluru for yet another episode of The Showdown. It's not just a debate show. It is the show where we discuss the real election issues. Issues that should matter to all of you as a voter, and that should actually drive the election agenda, apart from the rhetorics that we see every day. So today we are in Bengaluru, and we've got a lot of students, enthusiastic first-time voters sitting with us. We've got a power-packed panel with us, and the conversation is going to be about employment opportunities. Our last survey that we carried out, the Times VMR survey, showed that employment is the #1 agenda for voters this election season. 42% voters said that that's the most important thing for them. Of course, a lot of them differed on just how intense or serious is the problem of unemployment, whether or not it is a problem, is it a crisis right now, and are our netas aware of what is it that we want in terms of employment opportunities. So that's the conversation. Let's say hello to our panelists who are joining us this evening. I'm going to start from this side. Brijesh Kalappa of the Congress Party, thank you for joining us. Vivek Reddy of the BJP with us today. And a much loved hero, villain turned neta, Prakash Raj with us today. And a man that I have been personally tracking for a really long time, since I was a cub reporter, Harish Bijur, a noted citizen voice and a brand consultant. So the rules of this debate are very simple. The first round is the opening salvo. We'll give 2 minutes to each. My colleague Anand has the buzzer at the back. He's going to ring that buzzer when your time ends. And if you don't stop talking, he's going to start yelling in my ears. So please do follow the rules and the timings. Prakash Raj, let's start with you on this one. Is it a jobs crisis? Just how important should employment be as an issue for our netas?
I'm very happy because I think we saw it as I travel around that jobs and employment is the real #1 crisis in this country. And I'm very happy that it has become an election issue. Because of the rhetorics, what we see, it was denied focus on it. And in fact, in between my campaign, I came here just to listen to people, because that is an issue, and I'm so thankful for you to have taken up. Employment, I want to know, whatever the policies or whatever they claim today, the governments, that they have increased employment, I wanted to know with them and then to argue with them, what is employment? What is job? What is their perception of job? What does a job do to one youngster? I really wanted to know when they argue and then counter-argue with them on that basis. So actually, I will let them start that first. But yes, I'm very, very sure, and we can't be in a denial mode anymore with such a brimming, growing economy and the country, that this job, this employment issue, which is, if it is not going to address, there's no point in development. There's no point in any projects or anything we do. We are just hamming our way through and ending towards a major crisis. And I'm thankful for Mirror Now to have brought the focus in these elections on employment.
You know, thank you for that. By 2020, India's average age of our population will be 29. That will be our average age. We have right now over 65% of our population that's in the working category. 15 years and above in the working age category. So not only is employment a big issue for every other country, it becomes even more important for our country because we are a very young country, and every year we are adding a significant amount of people to that working force. So it becomes even more essential for us to ensure that we keep generating more jobs. And Harish, let me come to you on that. Employment was a big conversation in 2014. You know, we kept asking our netas at that time, what's your plan? What is your agenda? How will you create more jobs? Do you think in the last 5 years we've managed to come up with those policies to create more jobs?
Okay, see, firstly, it's very interesting. I'm in the midst of two fired up political parties and a very fiery independent. And I am the Aam Aadmi for the purpose of this discussion.
I'm
And
on your
going to be,
side.
very, very Aam Aadmi. Okay. So if you really look at it, I think, jobs is a real issue. And even though this is a political debate, it's going to become a political debate in a few seconds. I'd just like to say that, hey, listen, guys, this is not a political issue at all. I've just come out of a bit of travel into Telangana and Andhra, for instance. Last month I was in Assam. Prior to that, I've done West Bengal. I've done UP. It's across this country. So when we talk about the fact that jobs is a big issue, I think it's a real issue. The young of this country don't have enough number of jobs. 2, they don't have enough quality of jobs. 3, the remuneration that they're paid for the kind of jobs that they actually get in this country and become a statistic of a job holder, the remuneration is not enough. I have done a study where it says that 63% of the potential remuneration of an individual is paid to an individual in a big city. And I'm talking about 10 metros in the city. So that is really a half-filled glass. So jobs, real issue. Young people's angst is the real issue. And guess what, guys? I think we are all getting excited by technology. We're getting excited by automation. We're getting excited by IT, ITES, the so-mo-clo-litic era, the social media, the mobile, the cloud, the analytics, the IoT, the AR, the AI. But listen what? One important thing you and I must remember, even as we get excited about technology is a job gobbler. So if jobs don't exist already, believe it or not, technology is going to gobble more jobs. And that is a reality. So I think somewhere we need a policy which actually gets implemented by the powerful in this country. And I think it needs to be implemented with gusto to say the young of these people need jobs. But that starts with acceptance. First, let's accept that the young don't have jobs. I think the young don't have jobs.
All right. Let me just get everybody's opening comments and then I will come back to you. So, Viveka, do you want to respond to what he just said also? As you make your opening remarks, let's end the denial. Let's accept that there is a problem.
Well, I think Harish and Prakash Rai must know, and also Congress will oppose this, I know. But kindly consider these facts and figures. That is what I want to ask the youngsters to look at. What has happened to India over the past 5 years? If you look at the status we were in 2014 and where we are in 2019, India was the 9th largest economy in the world. We have jumped up to 6th largest economy in the world. We have beaten France. So, in this year, the country that ruled us, that is Britain, we will be beating them this year as the 5th largest economy in the world, which is not a small accomplishment. This is a huge accomplishment. From a $1.6 billion economy, we are moving to a $2.5 billion economy, which means a 65% rise in the economic potential of this nation. Now, what did Mr. Modi do? He didn't sit like the Congress people doing nothing. When he came, he started some financial surgeries, which was very essential for this country. What was the financial surgery? People were moving in BMWs and Range Rovers, but were not paying 1 paisa tax to this country. So, he asked people to account for their wealth. And this was a big financial surgery, hitting out at all these financial tax terrorists. And therefore, India's tax collection today has enhanced from a 8 lakh crore to 15 lakh crore. And where is all the extra tax collection going? All that money is going, mind you, towards rural infrastructure of the nation, towards development, which will ultimately make jobs. For example, youngsters must know, for example, 40% of India's cement consumer is the union government. Because union government is making highways. Union government is getting into all fields, building 9 crore toilets, making 2.5 crore houses. This is a huge investment which will generate employment. So the union government itself has generated employment by getting extra cash from taxpayers and investing it. Second, it has invested in the unorganized sector, which is Mudra. I would just take 30 seconds. It has invested in unorganized sector, which was Mudra. The greatest gift of Congress to this nation, 70 years of Congress, was creating a huge unorganized sector where little children and our students have slipped out of schools at 10th standard and 12th standard, and they are today driving taxis. Their curses are there on the Congress and on all of us. And that Mudra sector has given crores worth 6.5 loans versus worth 6.5 crores.
Yes, on
and
an average.
all of them are generating employment.
On an average,
In the
Vivek.
same way, manufacturing India
The
has also
the
generated
time's over
employment.
though. The time's over. Just let me just add. On an average though, each of these loans are on an average what 50,000?
Well,
20,
well, even if it is 50,000,
Let me
it is
also
a
point
great
out that
succor.
7% of the loans
And it
that were
ranges from 50,000 to
given
10 lakhs.
last year have already begun to turn into bad loans. And the banks currently are struggling to meet their targets for this year that you set.
It has helped.
So,
It has helped
Mudra loans,
three
while
crore
maybe
people.
a great idea to
And
start up small businesses for samosas
few bank
and
defaults are
chaiwalas,
not a standard.
it's not really going to help.
It has helped 3 crore people in the unorganized sector.
Okay.
Tanvi and me, it may not help us, but it will help the man who's driving a taxi.
All right. We'll come back to this because obviously Mudra loans is one of the big arguments that the government presents to us, and we'll go into details. But your opening comments, Brijesh Kalapa.
Thank you very much for having me here, and I'm glad my friend Vivek spoke about Mudra loans. 91% of all Mudra loans are to the extent of 23,000. With 23,000, if a person has 23,000 in his pocket, and if you say that the person is fully occupied and he's fully employed, I think this is the extent to which this government has gone wrong in creating a false narrative about job creation and about progress. I think this itself will tell you. Now you're all young students here. Supposing I were to hand each one of you 23,000 rupees, and if you were to go and tell your parents, look, I'm fully occupied now, I'm fully engaged, I'm fully employed. Would they accept it? Would you accept it yourself? This is a question you must first ask yourself. Now, look at the figures. The figures are that the NSSO, which is a governmental organization, decides to release the data in regard to joblessness. And 2 top associates of the NSSO have to threaten the Prime Minister that please allow us to release the data. Throughout these many years, we have had several situations, we have had several governments where the NSSO is asked to release data. Annually, they release the data. But here's the Prime Minister sitting on the file and saying, don't release the data. But what does the data tell you? Data tells you that there is an extremely high level of unemployment, 1. And 2, what is comparable to the present year of unemployment is in 1972. How are we comparing 1972 to the present year? Because in 1991, the country has already seen liberalization. We've already moved much ahead. The country's middle class has grown from about 10 million to about 450 million. And despite that, we're going back in time to 1972, and we're looking at figures of 1972, and we're saying, look, I am unemployed just as I was in 1972. Where was the industry in 1972? Where was investment in 1972? Now you're comparing yourself to 1972. Is this a parameter under which you can compare yourself and say you're still progressing? Is this what anybody will accept? Or only a self-deluded government will accept? I think it's for you to decide.
By a show of hands, let's get you involved in this. By a show of hands, how many of you think that employment or jobs crisis is a real issue right now? All right. How many of you think that perhaps the current government is in denial of this jobs crisis? Well, that's a very telling sign. While a lot of people thought that employment is a big issue, they think the government is completely up to speed with where we stand. Let's start with round 2. Opening salvos done. Counter-attack begins now. Prakash Raj.
I want to ask both of you, Congress and BJP, what do you mean by jobs? Job is not earning money. A job in this country is an identity. A job for a human being is his language. A job for a person is his relevance in this country. You people should have understood of a vision that it is creating job, it is career building and nation building. Your whole focus has not been on education. You're not preparing youngsters to what the country needs as it is growing.
Scenario that has been developing in this country is that about 45% of our citizens, little children and graduates or non-graduates or whatever, in the field of employment, when you come as graduates or non-graduates, about 45% of the population is sadly in unorganized sector. And who was the cause for this 45% of unorganized sector? A party that ruled this country for 70 years has been the cause for this unorganized sector. And this 45% is a huge swath of population. And we are marginalizing them to poor incomes, salaries, and difficult circumstances in life. So how does this taxiwala or a security man make ends meet? And how does he feed his family? And how does he grow up in life up the income ladder? These are questions which have no answers when we came in 2014. Now, this situation or this scenario is because of an absolute neglect to education and various other issues by the government. When our government came, we had a challenge to meet with respect to this 45%. When this scenario emerged, Mr. Modi planned on 2 or 3 important issues. One is, there was a two-pronged strategy to pull them out of unorganized sector. One was manufacturing India, and the other was skill India. When Modi came within the first 10 days, or within the first 30 days, he launched these 2 programs because there was a specific vision accompanied by specific outcomes. Skill India was to skill our unskilled citizens so that they can earn better incomes. And manufacturing India was to enlarge and expand manufacture in order to help people to... I didn't stop you.
The point is you're not answering at all. You're going somewhere else.
I didn't stop you.
See, I'll just tell you, not making fun of it, the very concept of pakoda politics, what I'm saying, okay? Now, even the ex-chief minister now who's standing for elections from Bangalore also says, pakoda gives job, it is self-employment. See, if you BJP guys claim that you had a startup and invented a dish called pakoda, and you got in skill development to say what is the ingredients of a pakoda, and they have started, then you can claim it. Okay, you can claim that, okay?
I don't know.
Now, what am I talking about perception of job, and what are you talking about perception of jobs?
Okay. Very interesting.
Don't make me a fool.
No, you are
He
already
talks
a fool.
about make in India. Your 3,000 crore statue was not made in India.
Did you have a doubt?
You bring in FDI policies.
Considering all your previous statements, did you have a doubt about your foolishness? I'm not asking about that. That's not the point.
No, you answer that first.
The issue here is
vision. Answer your perception of the job.
The issue here is...
Don't give me numbers.
Look here.
Don't start blaming 70 years rule.
I'm
not citing anybody.
All right.
We know your controversial statements.
Yes,
Let me ask you one thing.
Let me talking about controversial statements.
Vivek Reddy needs to respond.
I'm asking you what is a job?
Gentlemen. So now tell me, why are engineers, postgraduates, doctors, MPhil degree holders lining up for a job that they have not been skilled for?
Yes, there may be an instance where people are trying to seek governmental jobs because governmental jobs are more secure. You find engineering graduates, various other graduates, trying for government jobs because it gives them a uniform income, a retirement, and a peaceful life. But that need not show or reflect a trend regarding employment. But why don't you cite the figures of higher recruitment in the field of software? Yes. Why don't you cite the figures of higher registrations in Provident Fund? What I'm asking Mr. Prakash Rai is, don't take one small pakoda example and then try to demean.
Most of these jobs are created by the private sector. Yes. And I think that is the key issue. We need to focus and say that, hey, listen, is it the government's job to create jobs? That is question number 1. If it is, then the government must focus on creating jobs. The only point I want to make at this point of time is, both the gentlemen sitting there, the Congress party and the BJP, these are the countries who have built modern India. I would credit the Congress party for building the country into what it is today, and I would credit Mr. Modi's government for the last 5 years for creating disruptive politics in this country, which has created a lot of newness to this country. So both of them are actually holding hands.
Are governments supposed to create jobs, or are they supposed to be job enablers? For example, what the BJP says, Brajesh Karappa, we are providing you the funding, we are giving you the tax relief to go ahead and set up your own business. You decide what kind of a business you want to do, and we will create the atmosphere for you. So what's your response to that?
See, first of all, I must tell you, Tanvi, that as far as jobs are concerned, I think the first thing we must all realize is that a job, which now he's speaking of Mudra loans. We have all heard of the famous Janardhan Pujari's loan melas.
Mudra, manufacturing
right?
India.
One minute. When people came and they gathered in large areas, and they, young people used to come, they used to take 4,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, and these used to happen, right? That there was no capital with the entrepreneur, and he would go ahead and then he would invest, and he would set up a small enterprise of his own. So this has been going on for a long time. So if you give it a new name of Mudra, it doesn't become new. It's been an existing idea. It's a pre-existing idea which is already existent in India. As far as Skill India is concerned, how much of Skill India has actually provided jobs to those who have enrolled in the Skill India program? 7.1%. What about Make in India? Hardly any. I must tell you that economic growth today is at a 5-year low. Farm income growth is at a 14-year low. Fresh investments are at a 14-year low. Private investments are at a 7-year low. Industrial growth is at 1.7% from 7.5% a year ago. Household savings are at 20-year low.
Okay.
Right? And growth of exports as compared to the UPA time has fallen 15 times. Right? Now you're speaking of a situation where jobs are there, according to them, but the economy is floundering.
But Mr. Kalapa, what you're not understanding is that the government is not saying that there is a slowdown. The government is saying we are the largest and the fastest growing economy right now. Look at our growth. How can we have such a growth without
let me answer that.
jobs crisis? Right?
What has happened is, when India is growing as the fastest economy in the world, this is World Bank stated. World Bank testifies to this. And India has jumped from the 9th to 6th largest economy.
Based on your numbers.
And the GDP, World Bank. This is World Bank.
Based on the numbers
This is
you
World
gave.
Bank. This is World Bank numbers. World Bank numbers, and the World Bank numbers testify to this. This is an indicator where India is going. The economy is doubling up, tripling up, and moving fast. The second thing is, if you look at the Provident Fund Organization data, there have been millions of companies that have enrolled over the past 4 years. And these companies enroll. When do these companies enroll? The enrollment of these companies is when they are forming companies, they are starting businesses, and the businesses are recorded in the Provident Fund department, and they are hiring more. And the higher hiring is reflected in the Employment Provident Fund data. And they also say that the workers reported, highest number of workers reported, is in the bracket of 21 to 26. So this is how India is going. Unfortunately,
I'll translate that to
Prakash Rai and Bansi
I'll
Kadapa will never
translate that
accept
to you.
because
That's what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying. He's just doing tongue twisters.
you have proved yourself to be a joker. What can I do?
I think 30 seconds to Harish Bijur, and then I think it's time for the voters.
Okay, my 30 seconds simply is this, that, hey, listen, guys, nothing is black and white. If you really look at the 5 years of governance of the Modi government, there have a lot of good things been done by the Modi government. We cannot ignore that. But if something has not been done, there are two spaces. And those two spaces need to be center stage by the government of today or the government of tomorrow of whatever color. One is jobs and the other is farmer angst. Now, farmer angst is yet another issue, which is another topic altogether. But this should be center stage. We should not live in denial. We must accept that jobs are important and address the issue of jobs.
Okay. Last round is to say what is the way forward. But we'll take a 30-second break, recharge our batteries so that our politicians are ready to face the voters, drink some water, and be right back after a break. Welcome back. Well, things have got a little heated up here, and I don't think it's just the lights, it's also the conversation we are having. But it is time to face the voters. So let's see, where should we begin? You have a mic. Introduce yourself, please, and also tell us who your question is to.
Good evening, everyone. This is Mohammad Naveed Akram from BBS Surana College. My questions are from both the sides, to sir from Congress and sir from BJP. First of all, I would like to ask a question from BJP that I'm talking about the statistics. According to the Business Standards newspaper, India is facing the highest unemployment ratio since the last 45 years. And the demonetization that was introduced by the Modi government, I think it has caused the small-scale workers and poor people that have suffered a lot. I don't think any business house or any elite people, they have suffered much. So how do you think that we are safe in your hands if you again come to the power?
Well, ma'am.
And we also heard about some Nirav Modi case that you want all the cash in the bank. But someday some Nirav Modi comes and he takes all the cash from the bank and he fleds away from the country. So we are not safe.
Okay.
Can I
So
just answer?
that's two questions. I'll request people to keep it to one from here on, but since you've asked those two questions, let others also get a chance to ask. Okay, so Vivek, you want to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. Well, let me tell you one thing. Your first question was on demonetization. And prior to that, you had asked...
Unemployment, highest in 45 years.
Well, this unemployment, 42 years, comes from a very interesting source. The opposition is manufacturing certain reports also.
NSSO is
One
not
second,
opposition
sir,
report.
it is not that.
It's
There is a
it's
CMI
government
report.
organization.
There is a
NSSO is
CMI
government
report.
organization.
Hold on. Let me just complete. Hear me out. There is a CMI report which brought out this issue of unemployment. The CMI report, very, very interestingly, the CMI head who published this report, he says Modi should not have hit Balakot. You should have spoken peace. Now, the person who has made this report comes from a certain political ideology. It is very apparent. This
Mr.
is
Reddy,
one.
I think you've got it wrong. The report that he was quoting was published in Business Standard, was the NSSO
Yes.
report that
I'm
the
talking
government
about-
has chosen not to publish.
It has taken the source
No, it
from
has not
CMI.
taken
It has
anything
taken
from
the source.
CMI. CMI
It has
reports
taken
are
the source.
separate.
Second thing is,
The
there is no...
basic source is the Labour Survey Department, which again the government is not published.
There is no such 42% year hike in the unemployment, one. Second is, India is doing well on all fronts and on all the key issues. So far as demonetization is concerned, Mohammed, let me tell you, it had some impact or some difficulties which we as citizens had to sacrifice for the first 3 months. But what are its gains? The gains are very big. If without demonetization, India would not have been an economy which had a budget of 8 lakh crores. It has jumped to 15 lakh crores. The last question is, it pains me to tell you, you have spoken about Nirav Modi. It pains me to tell you that so far as Nirav Modi and the other guy, Vijay Mallya is concerned, this government introduced 3 legislations back to back in the space of 6 months in order to ensure that they are brought back to India. One is the fugitive offenders laws, which declares a man who has run with Indian money a fugitive. Second is, they have already issued declarations under the law that they are fugitives. They are being pursued in the courts of England so that they are brought back immediately.
But Mr. Reddy,
now,
your law has
let me
nothing
just,
to do with what the UK court decides.
One second.
Don't
One
mislead
second,
people.
Well, I'm
they
not
have already
misleading.
become fugitives. You
I'm
can't
not
bring them
misleading.
back. That's on to the UK court.
Tanvi. Just listen to me.
You can
In
get some of the
comparison-
assets back and some
in
of the money back.
comparison- One second.
Yes, your names.
Hello. Hello, my name is Nikhil. If there is a job vacancy or anywhere something like that, give money and take the job. Why is that so mean to get to the lowest level?
So far as recruitment is concerned, when Mr. Modi came and became the Prime Minister of the central government, he ensured that in all central government jobs, everything is online, decisions are made on marks, and the scope for interviews is very, very less. If you are asking for a central government job today, you are going to be assessed on merit. If you are going to ask for a state government job today, you will be asked for other things. Your face value,
He's speaking of
your
Gujarat.
other values.
Speaking of Gujarat.
This is Karnataka.
The question to you, because I know they all are very angst.
What is the
They have a
question?
lot of angst against the Congress and the
Is
BJP.
there any question to me?
But you're not the new Neta. You tell us, how should we fight corruption? Why are we not able to get it out?
First, send these 2 guys out of this country.
You are nobody to do that.
And then, no, wait.
Are you the immigration
I am
officer?
not asking, I'm asking them. He said perfectly well. I'm asking them. What I am saying is, we need to change these setups.
Getting cases, as you said, right? Agree.
You should do it, no? Both of them are hand in glove. Both of them are
Right.
hand in glove.
Yeah.
We can't continue to be in this denial. We need to change the whole system. They want a central party. We, the citizens, should understand we need to readdress things. I'll just give you an example of where you have to change things. There is an agrarian crisis. My dear friends, the truth is, central government has one single policy across the country. We need to readdress it. A farmer's issue who's next to a river is so different from a farmer who grows on one rainwater a year, and a farmer who grows things on a hillock. It has to become a state subject. Only then we can get the way. These guys are the same kings whom the democracy didn't want in another form. They have made the whole business of elections into dhanda, governance into dhanda. None of the policies are pro-people. There is no vision. There is no intention to do anything. Farm loan waiving is just a vote bank policy. Will they do it again? In Karnataka government, they're doing a farm loan waiver. There'll be 50,000 loan on every one of us. Okay, fine, we'll give it to the farmers. Won't you build cold storages? Won't you start colonies? A farmer who grows tomato and he sees it 50 rupees, everybody grows a tomato. By the time he reaps, it's 5 rupees. They don't want to do anything about it. They want to wait for the next election. They want the agrarian continue to go and then again do farm waiving. They have no vision. Both of them have lost the trap. We as citizens need to understand we need individuals who have a vision. We need individuals who are not from any political party.
But if you look at it, I think, I don't think we require a Congress Mukt Bharat. We don't want a BJP Mukt Bharat. We want a corruption Mukt Bharat. And to achieve that, and I think to achieve that, the first step is every political party must take the first step. Because you know why I'm saying it? Because corruption is something which you can clean. A staircase can be cleaned only from top to down. You cannot start cleaning the down and expect the top to go clean. Corruption is that kind of an issue. Start cleaning the top, start cleaning politics for a start. For instance, how much can you spend on an election for a member of parliament seat today? Let us say 70 lakhs of rupees.
Look at the electoral bonds.
And look,
it is illegal. Both of them have agreed it.
So let me put it this way.
Both of them are very happy about it.
Let me.
No opposition on that.
Let me put it that way. Let me put it this way. At the end of the day, corruption can be cleaned only top down, and politics should start cleaning it. If we stand for elections, and if we spend more than 70 lakhs, and we still say we spent only 70 lakhs, that's corruption for a start. So if corruption occurs right from the top, that's where the cleaning must stop.
So now we're being a little idealistic though, Harish, because
No,
we can't
I know.
expect them to clean up
Or change
themselves,
the law.
because who's going to do it? Election
Okay.
Commission doesn't have the power
Okay.
unless we expect the
Yeah.
Supreme Court to do it.
Sure.
Self-regulation is not going to work here.
Okay.
Like Prakash Raj said, electoral bonds. Now I don't even know where they're getting the money from.
Both of them.
Yeah.
And it's convenient. Neither are going to speak up about it. Okay, one last question. Is there one related to jobs? Youngsters here going to be looking for jobs in the next couple of years? Yes, Mr. Mulidhar.
Myself, Muralidhar, heading the Department of Management and Placement Officer. So now, as Prakash Raj sir was telling, the quality of job that need to be defined. Second is coming to unemployment. What unemployment is? Not just having a job, and as you were quoting out the statistics, for a job, 23,000 people applied and many were PhD. So nowhere I don't see the importance giving on the employability. There are jobs. Let me be honest, every day I get 5 calls that we want candidates. Even in unorganized sector, people are not getting the jobs. The person who is employable, a small example I'll get you. There's a very small shop which pays 50,000 for the person who prepares masal puri and pani puri. Now, why are we focusing on creating the employability? People come out as engineers. How the products come out. But the products have the quality which is controlled at every step, and which are not good are rejected. But as human beings, when graduates are coming out, it may be engineers or MBAs or BCom students or BSc, BA, anything.
Correct.
why the employability is not being installed, communication skills are not there. That need to be understood. And as I totally agree with Prakash sir, he was telling the basic education system has to be made very strong so that when a person comes out, he comes out with the confidence. So what are the steps that need to be taken? It is respect for any party. It's for all the intellectuals to give us the correct answer so that that can come down. Because every company has opening walk-ins every day. There are people who have got into agriculture, new methods of agriculture, getting wonderful results. So why don't the focus be on that?
In fact, you know, the point that you've raised will bring us to our last round, the final remarks, because let's look ahead. Let's hear from all of you, what should the solution be? What is Rahul Gandhi's vision? What is Narendra Modi's vision for the next 5 years? How are you going to create jobs, better quality jobs? And what is Prakash Raj's vision on that? And what is it that the common man wants? That's the last round. Let's start with you, Brijesh.
See, as far as job creation, I really appreciate what you said. And today schools actually, since the 1800s, schools are actually preparing persons to be employed in a factory, right? So they don't have this kind of creativity. And in the new India, unless you're creative, right, you're really, a dinosaur. You have to be creative. And I think when schools actually begun to think that creativity is one of the most important things, I think that's when the whole paradigm changes. And this is something which we'll have to look at eventually. But as far as the present job crisis is concerned, I really appreciate your question. But as far as job crisis is concerned, see how many of our jobs are created by the agricultural sector, by the industrial sector, by the tertiary sector, and by the unorganized sector. Because these are the sum total of jobs. Everybody engages people from, from one of these sectors. So naturally, if you're going to strengthen the agricultural sector, how do you strengthen the agricultural sector? By making easy finance available to them so they don't fall into the hands of a money lender. So this is the first part. As far as how industries are going to do better, you again ensure that if there are any difficulties, either in the running of the industry or that the industry has to cope with various problems, financial, such and such and so on, then you have to make available, the various issues have to be resolved. As far as the tertiary sector is concerned, which is mostly your IT and so on and so forth today, that part is actually taking care of itself. Because everybody agrees that as far as the tertiary sector is concerned, and ultimately you see, if India has to advance, then the number of people who are employed in the agricultural sector, they have to actually move to the tertiary sector, and it has to become top-down. So that's when India has actually progressed, and that's happening to a large extent. Because what began with 90% agriculture is today near, I think, 57, 58% agriculture. So there are nearly 30% people who are involved in the tertiary sector. So the idea is that when you have a huge, and the problem with this government, and we always say that it is running on a single engine of governmental expenditure. How much can you expend from the government unless you get investment from outside? So you have to go by a twin engine, and only then this economy will do well, and only then you will find that each one of you will have a job.
Will that be our next focus? The fact is that we've not seen private companies put in that much money to expand new manufacturing facilities. Private investment is still a concern.
Well, I think... Thank you. I think there are three sectors which primarily spur the great job industry. One is the service sector, like IT professionals and others. And the second is the manufacturing sector. And the third is the agricultural sector. I think the service sector is quite robust in India. We have a lot of people relying on the service sector, and it is a world power. The manufacturing sector is where India should ideally be in a range of 27 to 30% of manufacturing sector in the GDP. Out of our total GDP, we should be 30%. I think in this line, the government has said that manufacturing India will become the big issue now. Because only when we manufacture, we were at about 16% earlier of the GDP. So we are moving in a big way in the manufacturing sector. And the last sector is the agricultural sector, where we have to make it very productive. So the government's prerogative this is where Mr. Modi comes in as a person who brought in those structural reforms. The government's prerogative is to get more investment in its hands so that it could build the infrastructure, rebuild education, and then ensure that there is investments in manufacturing also. I'm glad that Mr. Brijesh Kalappa agreed that government is investing huge money. Yes, and that is not the single engine under which it is growing. There is huge investments from foreign companies, foreign direct investments, which is going to spur India. We are at a critical juncture, friends, I'm telling you, where all the structural reforms made by Modi to put the foundation right is now going to take off with a huge building that is going to be erected. That is why Modi is essential at this critical juncture. Mr. Prakash Rai made a very important point. Yes, individuals are important. It is the individual and his commitment to the nation that will ultimately take the nation forward. Mao Zedong in 1977 said, China should shift to manufacturing. He said, manufacturing or perish. Today, China is the #1 manufacturer in the world. Same way, Modi's call to the nation to manufacture in India is going to bring huge benefits over the next few decades. But why individuals matter are because these individuals are the ones who have the vision to take us forward.
Okay.
That is why individuals are important. Of course, there are individuals also who say the Ayappa is not a god. There are individuals who say that. We have to understand. We have to understand what sort of individuals we have to elect. What sort of things should be brought into public discussion. Your personal things should be kept to yourself.
Yes.
Please don't
So
attack
let's-
our beliefs.
Let's
Don't
not
ever
go there.
attack
No,
our
no,
beliefs.
Vivek Reddy, I don't want to go there. That's not the conversation today, please. Let's leave it to those rhetorical rallies that we see outside. Let's talk about the real issues for voters. I'm going to come to you last, Prakash. To you first, because we
Okay.
started off with, are we generating enough jobs? Do we even know that there is a jobs crisis? Do you believe what he's saying, that a lot has been done now, the fruits of which will only come in the next 5 years?
Well, I'm not sure because I don't know the details. But what I'm sure about is two things. One is, the first aspect is the GDP of this country, which Mr. Vivek referred to. And if you look at it, its GDP of the country is very lopsided. You know why it's lopsided? Imagine there is a stool in this room. It has 3 legs. On one leg, one of the legs is services. The length of that leg is 56 feet, which is 56% of the GDP of this country comes from services. The length of another leg is 30, and that makes it 76, and 56 plus 30 is 86. And the length of the second one is actually manufacturing. And the length of the third leg is only 14. And that is the lopsided GDP story of this country. When the agriculture leg is only 14 contribution to the GDP of this country, and it has progressively worsened, it simply means that agricultural jobs will not be there. Agri-angst will be there. When manufacturing goes on a static manner, it means manufacturing jobs are static. There are no new jobs in manufacturing. And if the services leg is very high, the jobs are in services. But remember, the food security of a nation depends upon its agriculture. You cannot have this lopsided legs. The second point, and the last point I want to make, is that, there are 3 sectors which can create jobs in this country. The first sector is the government. The government cannot create all the jobs in this country. The private sector is the second sector which can create jobs. And then there is a third sector. The private sector is doing its best. The government has to create the ecosystem for the private sector to flourish and run. The third sector is really the sector of education. Every educational institution of ours is a job factory, actually. You are creating workers for the future. But however, our education pedagogy does not allow that. It allows you intellectual stimulus, but it does not allow you the hands and legs stimulus. So I think it's very important for educational institutions to become the job factories of the future, and educational institutions to generate a nation of entrepreneurs who will not go for a job, but who will give jobs to others.
Well, you started off this conversation by asking them to define jobs. We come a full circle and we wrap up with you. Comments.
It's very important that today, whatever the jobs they promise, it can be given. When I'm talking about present unemployment, to some extent, look at their schemes. They have free meal in government schools. You know what is the woman who cooks a meal is paid? 2,100 rupees. Why will she not steal? They are not addressing the issue of job security and dignity of jobs. We have government schools which can give equal education and quality education. They have just left it away. And there have been so many teacher trainings, and we have more than lakhs and lakhs of teachers without job. And a lot of teachers are taken on contract. How does a human being who has a contract job come back home or go out of the house not knowing will he have a job tomorrow? We need to think about it. First, we need to set up this. And the second important thing I would say is reimagine the future. Reimagine the future with your children. I was talking in Cochin someday, and there was a kid who came who was 16 years old, 15 years old, and he said, I would like to write a script. I think I have it in me. And his father said he's an idiot, he doesn't know anything about it. I asked his father, do you know writing a script is? He says, I don't know. Then how dare you tell him not to do it? If that child has a dream, take him to somebody who knows it. Probably he is right. We need to understand in this country, children are the victims of this education system, and these children are in the hands of the victims who are parents of this system. And that is where we need to clean it. That is where we need to have a reimagination of the future.
And on that note, let's wrap this up. The fact of the matter is, like Prakash Raj said, there are teachers who don't have jobs, thousands of them protesting in many parts of our country in different states. Contract teachers who haven't been paid. That's where the problem of poor education starts. You have protests happening in all states today based on community reservation, quotas for upper caste and lower caste and economically backward. And all of this actually, if you see, boils down to people not being happy with their current circumstance. If they had a good, clear path, if they had good employment opportunities, if they had good personal development opportunities around them, nobody would be out there on the streets protesting. And I think it is high time that our politicians understand that and start addressing it in that way. Quotas can help you now in the short run. It will destroy this country if you do not come up with a proper policy. Along with this, has to come a proper long-term policy for jobs, which you don't have, which I don't hear any politician talk about right now, at least from our mainstream political parties. There is no plan in place. And so it is your responsibility as voters to remind them. Every time somebody comes and asks you for a vote, ask them, what is your plan to create more employment for me and for my children in the coming years? Thank you so much. You've been a lovely audience. Thank you for our panelists joining us here in Bengaluru City. Thanks so much, guys.